What is up guys, Andy Forrester, Dean Runner here. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm giving you guys a long-term update on the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. So we just crested over the 200 mile mark in this shoe from last weekend's long run, and I'm excited to share with you guys the wear and tear of the shoe, how I've been using it, and of course, will I continue to use the shoe moving forward. We'll talk durability and we'll talk everything about this shoe and my thoughts in general, and really why it's taken so long for me to get to this milestone in this shoe. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. Let's start with the wear and tear. So in terms of how the shoe's holding up visually, it's great. It feels good and it's still holding up strong just after 200 miles. 215 I think. In terms of the upper, it's obviously a little bit dirty, but there are no snags, tears or frays in any of the upper material, and all looks okay there. Still getting a good lockdown. There's nothing really that's going wrong at this stage. There is an issue at the back in the heel counter area, which we're going to talk about shortly, but that's not down to the wear and tear. I think it's basically a design flaw in the shoe, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Let's touch on that very shortly. In terms of the midsole, it's still going strong. It's chewing up a little bit. I'll show you on the bottom, but as you can see on the outsole, it's no creases, nothing major going on there, still holding up really good. And honestly, in terms of the rubber outsole, I did have quite a lot of wear on the Speed 1s and the Speed 2 run shields, especially over this point when I got to this sort of mileage. It's not doing that in this, I'll be honest with you. It's holding up really strong. The outsole rubber from the back all the way up to the front is looking good still. Although it's very, very minimal kind of, not grip, but very minimal tread on the shoe, it's still holding its shape. The only area that it's really starting to break down a little bit is at the top, but that's fine. That's, I guess, the toe off area. And that tends to go on most shoes anyway. You can see there's a lot of discoloration on the bottom where the blue paint was, and it's kind of chewing up a little bit. And around the sides here of the shoe, it's just chewing up, but it's honestly nothing major. And to be honest with you, for 200 miles, I'm quite happy with this. So how have I been using this shoe? How did I get it up and over 200 miles? And why has it taken so long since the 100 mile update on this shoe? Well, to be brutally honest with you, the heel counter is one of those reasons. Let's touch on that very, very shortly. See, I picked this shoe up quite a long time ago, and I then picked up the Brooks Hyperion Max. Brooks very kindly sent that to me. I was marathon training, and to be honest with you, the Brooks Hyperion Max completely outshone this shoe. I loved version 1 and 2 of the Speed. I kind of feel a little bit let down with the updates in 3. I completely see where they've gone with the shoe and why they've done what they've done, but it's definitely a safer model of the 3 versions. It's the version 1 and 2 were very edgy, very speedy, and you really could take them out for those real top end sort of workouts and really any sort of speed. I find this shoe kind of limits you a little bit. They've widened the base. The foam is lovely and soft still, but they've just kind of made tweaks to the shoe that have made it a better cruiser rather than a better speedster. I think that's the best way to sum it up. And so I haven't really been taking it anything over sort of marathon pace, even at half marathon pace. I actually did a tempo in it this week, and I did find it a little bit clunky. It didn't really give as much back as I was hoping. And although it got the job done, it was just kind of something or nothing really. There are better shoes in my rotation that I could have picked. But one of the reasons, as I said, was the heel counter. It really kind of stumped me. I've been struggling with getting a lot of rubbing, especially down towards the base here. It's such a rigid heel counter, which you see in a lot of shoes, but there's just almost no padding at the back there going down the back. And I was finding that sometimes running any time after sort of 8 miles, I get a real sore spot at the base of my Achilles. And so I shelved the shoe for a while. It happened 2 or 3 times on the bounce. And yeah, at that point I kind of shelved it, and I just completely committed to the Brooks Hyperion Max, which anyway was a better shoe. And they kind of really didn't see the light of day for a while over summer, until I basically had to retire the Hyperion Max. I was looking for a shoe that could do those sort of long run cruising type of paces and intervals if I was going to jump into tempo work, but nothing too crazy. And I really only had carbon plated shoes, and then big, chunky, easy recovery day shoes. And this is the only shoe in my rotation that filled that middle void. I know it has a nylon plate in it, but I try to avoid carbon plates as much as I can where possible. So I just kind of thought to myself, all right, we'll give it another shot. And I didn't have any issues with the heel counter. So it came back into the rotation. But then on a few runs after a long period of time, it did give me a little bit of jip, but it hasn't quite given me the same issues that I was having before. But even on the long run that I did this weekend to get it up and over the 200 mile mark, towards the end of the run, I was feeling it in my Achilles. It is so rock solid here, and there's just not enough padding in the back there. So that's why it's been shelved. It's not been a consistent performer in my rotation. And yeah, that's the reason why it's taken a while. So then that leads me on to talking about, will I continue to use this shoe moving forward? And then we'll touch on durability. Yeah, I probably will continue to use this shoe despite probably giving off the vibes that I'm not particularly over enamored with this shoe. I kind of find like it does the job, and it does the job well, but it doesn't do the job sort of outstanding. It doesn't blow me away. It's just one of those shoes that I know I can lace up and I know what it's going to give me. I used to say, as I said, in version 1 and 2, I'd take a speed 1 anywhere from like moderate paces, zone 2, all the way up to top end intervals. It could just cover such a wide range. And now with this shoe, I kind of feel it's shifted back a notch, and I could take it for an easy run up to sort of half marathon pace at best. And I wouldn't really want to go over that because I've got better shoes for it. I don't feel it's as responsive as the previous 2 versions. Now, whether that's, well, I don't know what that is. There's obviously some kind of design change they've made to this shoe to make it safer. And I just feel like responsive is one of those words that a lot of reviewers and people throw around. The definition for me is when you kind of land, what response do you get back? Is it responsive? Do you bounce off? Do you feel like the shoe really aids you in your foot strike? And what Saucony does with their speed roll tech and the geometry of the shoes is they always roll through the gait cycle beautifully. But I'm just finding the foam not quite as poppy or not quite as zippy as the last couple of versions, which is why I kind of say that it's not quite as responsive as it used to be. But I know with this shoe that I can lace it up and I can get those efforts done from zone 2 up to half marathon stuff. If I'm not looking for a plated shoe, but I'm wanting something nice and light and nimble, this kind of really does fit the bill. And so it's going to have a place in the rotation until I can find something better, by which point, if I'm honest with you, it might get shelved again. If I could get another pair of Brooks Hyperion Max, that would probably be the dream right now. But yeah, there's no reason for me to stop using it. It's still working really well. And in terms of durability, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to like fall apart from 200 to 300 miles. And I genuinely don't feel it's going to fall apart from 300 to 400. And my prediction, and this very much is a prediction, would be that if anything was to go on this shoe, it would be the foam that would flatten out. I feel like the upper is just holding together really well. The grip on the bottom is surprisingly good compared to the last couple of versions, which the grip wasn't amazing on the Speed 1 and 2s. It did suffer in the wet, and this isn't great still, but it is an improvement, but it still has room to be improved. But that's still holding up quite well. So I do feel like the foam will probably be the first thing that will go. And when I say go, I mean it will probably deaden a little bit. So overall, will I continue to use it? Yes. Do I want to continue using it? I'm kind of on the fence with it. It will do a job. And am I particularly over enamored with this shoe? Not really. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 after 200 miles. Solid without being spectacular. Bit of an issue with the ankle collar area, but we're working through it, and I will just be careful how I do use it. A shoe that gets the job done, but doesn't really light the fire in my belly. But yeah, a solid 7.5 out of 10 shoe that I think that a lot of people do enjoy, and some people have just been put off by the updates, and would ultimately say to a lot of people, grab the version 1 or version 2 if you can find them on discount, because you will get more excitement from that version of the shoe than this one. But for me, as I said, it's doing a job, and it's doing a good one so far. So we'll keep ploughing on with it here and there, and if we can get a better alternative in at some point, then I will probably switch to that one. So that's it from me today, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this shoe, especially as we're coming up to Christmas. The shoe will then have been out, I believe, for over a year. And if you've got more miles in it than me, like over 500k or over 350 odd miles or whatever, drop a comment below. Let people know how the durability is, because we will probably see some sales in this shoe. And if you guys can kind of say how it's doing, how it's holding up, that might help people make more informed decisions. So it'd be great to hear from you guys down in the comments below. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you in the next one. Until then.